Michael. Hi, Michael. So glad you were.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, so glad. So I bet you're glad to be on the other side of
Very much,
the election.
very much, very much.
well, well, we appreciate all that you did to help it go so smoothly.
Yeah, the county folks did a great job. I'm not going to take much credit. They really did. If you voted in Albemarle County, it
Yeah,
was a good experience.
my screen here. Let's see how well I do with this. Let's see. No, oops. Actually, I'm going to stop this. Oh, sorry. I gotta figure, I have to get a little bit more about how to do this, but I know what I'm going to share here. Okay. Because I do have this agenda. Let's see if I can get this up. All right. Do you guys see my screen? So Michael wasn't at, we had our first meeting last month as the Education Subcommittee. And at that point, we created a charter and we set some goals for ourselves. And so I don't know if Michael, you were able to see, and we've also in the Google Doc for the Natural Heritage Committee, there's an education folder, and in there you'll find a lot of these materials. So I've got the minutes and trying to also write up some meeting notes to go along with that. And so some of the things that we had, we had a real simple charter, and then we set out some goals, and one of them land owner education materials through the county website. And I'm super excited because we actually had our first social media post. I don't know if any of you checked it out, but it was about leaving the leaves be. So not raking your leaves and or mulching them in place or piling them into a pile, and the benefit to wildlife if you just leave your leaves there. Did any of you guys check it out, or are you on the county social media? Yeah. So I guess part of it is when Serena was talking about, it's also up to us to try to amplify those messages. So as much as possible to go ahead and, like them and retweet them if you have a Twitter account. So I'm really excited about that, just getting the first one out there. And then I'm going to, that was last week, and try to get a little bit more information about how often we can actually have these postings. And they're going to be under this heading, every day is Earth Day. So, I was excited about it because it was like a way that we can utilize the county website. So, but one of the things on my agenda today is messaging about good stewardship practices and how to get those messages out into the public. And of course, the tip of the month, or Earth Days every day, is just going to be one aspect of that. So I'd also like us to continue to think about how can we educate the landowners. And so in terms of one of that first set of goals was really developing those education materials and using the website. And a lot of that has happened. Kim was able to talk to the right people, and there's better linkage now for the web page, and it's going to be easier for people to find information. And also I had that PDF of resources that are now on the Natural Heritage website, so people can link to that. It's just a one page of resources that people can use. So I almost feel like a lot of that first goal has been accomplished, and A has. I mean, there's still some things that need to happen, but, and then there's B, which is these tip of the month. And Leah wrote a couple great ones, one about what do you do if you find a injured bird. And so I think is, to continue to work on developing them so that we have sort of a playlist that the Cape can plug in. And it'd be great if we could get one every week, you know, almost. I feel like there's enough material that you could almost do that. So if you know, Michael, if you have an interest and want to add to that list in terms of ideas or other areas that you think that we could be writing a short little message out to the public. And then goal number 2 was working with the Blue Ridge Prism. And then we've been, Kim and I have been working and meeting with Amy Smith with Albemarle County Parks and Rec, and hopefully moving forward some education material there in the park. And I actually just want to show you guys a couple things that we're looking at. So I looked at this plants map. Hi, Emily. And this is really inexpensive. These little tags that you can put on trees and then link them, you know, you can get a free subscription, which allows you 24 plants that you can get these tags. You buy the tags. They're pretty inexpensive. You put them up there and then you use the QR code to link to information about the trees. That could be something that we could actually create to make it engaging, and might be interesting to actually create sort of some nice natural history pieces about, you know, 12 of our native trees. So we're looking at that. And also these brochures, The Kids in the Park. And so I had gotten some information about that. Are you guys familiar with this? These brochures, they're over at Mint Springs. I guess the county has this. And so with this $5,000, they put up a kiosk, like a sign in a frame, and then you get 4 brochures and you get 2,000 copies of each. But the guy that I talked to said that they're putting up sort of a less expensive package, which is $2,500, and you get 1 brochure and a smaller frame and a sign for that. But it's kind of neat because the kids can get online, and there's some activities online and they can win prizes. And so it's got a couple different layers with that. So we are going to be meeting on Wednesday. There's a community member who's on the CAC there, who's really active, and I met her over at Charlotte Humphreys, and we talked about some of these ideas. And then I just want to show you this idea of creating some natural playscapes. We're using just natural materials to create some fun things that the kids can do there. And we had gotten some bids on that. One that I particularly like, but I wonder how safe it is this kind of climbing balance beam. But then my question is that really a safe, you know, the safety of something like that? But maybe there could be a simpler plan for that. But the idea is to create, there are some funds available, and to create some natural playscapes in Charlotte Humphreys along with this educational material. So I wanted to kind of get you guys up to Humphreys. Do you guys have any questions about that or any thoughts? Yes, Michael.
So Christine, I noticed we were at the Monticello Trail a couple days ago, and of course they've got that great tree trunk that the kids play in, all covered up. So obviously this is probably not the right time to be looking at, playground structures. So that'd be the only thing I'd say. I mean, I think for something further on, it would really be a really nice idea to have something in one of these parks that would really focus on that. And I'd love to get if there's some way that we could do that, we could also kind of coordinate with some of the local groups about doing some kid activities there relating to animals and plants and slugs and salamanders and things like that, that would be we could really use that as a place for kids to gather.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up because Kimberly Swanson, she's got, I think she's just maybe just she has one son who's in middle school, and she was talking about how she feels like kids are desperately going to want to be able to interact with people once COVID's over with. And, she was interested in the brochures, but really like the idea or the possibility of having, like on Saturday morning, groups come in there. And I'm actually going to turn my video off. I don't know if I can. I'm getting this unstable internet, but the possibility of getting maybe master naturalists or working with Ivy Creek to bring people to that park for like a Saturday morning nature walk. Yeah, so she was definitely interested in that.
Yeah.
But I agree with the play structures. To be perfectly honest, I kind of like the stump garden. And when we were there, they had some stumps, but to have something a little bit more to stabilize the stumps a little bit more in the ground, where they wouldn't tip over if you jumped on top of them and kind of use them that way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Christine.
Yeah, Emily.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I really like that idea. I mean, I know my own kids, like, we've been to a place that has like a lot of stumps and balance beaming kind of stuff. And my kids thought it was great fun. I mean, even older kids who are like teens were like, hey, this is fun. Let's go do this. So I think that that's great. It could be a lot of fun. I was wondering if we might get any ideas from Wild Rock, because that's nature play-based place out near Patricia Byram. And I haven't been there, but this is, I presume, the kind of, perhaps part of what they have there. So in terms of safety and stuff, they might have ideas.
Yeah, and this proposal is actually, these are people that Kim had recommended, and I believe that they have worked over there at Wild Rock. Kim might know, but so yeah, so
I like the idea though a lot. I think it could be really attractive. My question about the kids in the park, I have seen those brochures. I think it was at Mint Springs where I picked one up, but I was wondering when I was looking at what you were showing there, it was saying sort of, the wording was such that it says from our standard selection. And the only thing I wondered then was how pertinent it is to each particular like place or park. Like if they have one about trees, like I remember looking, and I was either looking online at some of those brochures or I was looking in the park and being surprised, like I think one of them was listing like sourwood or something that I didn't feel like. I mean, there's a lot of sourwood at Walnut Creek, but I'm not aware that there's like sourwood out at Mint Springs or something. And I do think that it could be worth understanding how like it isn't a big expense and how particular they can make it to a particular park or area. Because if I were a kid and I had a list of trees and I was like, oh, I'm so excited, here's a list of trees for me to go find, I'd view it as sort of like a little scavenger hunt kind of thing. And then if like half the things on my list actually don't grow in that park, that's kind of a letdown personally.
yeah, so yeah, we could actually I'm gonna actually see.
So that's what I was just, because
I
do feel like I saw a brochure at one of those parks and like kind of questioned in my mind, is that actually here?
Yeah, and so you can take any of those brochures and customize them, but then they're more expensive than the ones that they already have pre-printed. And the contact person I spoke to actually recommended, I mean, it seemed, I actually for me, it's kind of makes sense to just go for the less expensive option, which is the $2,500. And he recommended if you're going to choose any, that you would choose this nature hide and seek. And you can see it's pretty straightforward, you know, bee buzzing, animal scat. Let's see, dead tree. So these are sort of some of the things that you might they look for. Wildflower, an insect, a mushroom. So it's pretty generic. So that was,
Right.
and
Okay.
then they do have some variations on that you could do. So I realized that I don't think I had shared this with you guys, but I can share it. You can explore it a little bit and see what you think. They also have this like animal athletes. So, you know, there would be a possibility of, well, of course, I don't know how well this would work because, you know, I don't know. But also, like there are a couple office buildings and I think there's a dentist nearby. And one thing that I noticed on these brochures that they have sponsors. And so that might be another possibility, is to see like they have pediatricians or hospitals that, you know, in an effort to try to get kids out into nature, might be interested in sponsoring. So that's another possibility. But I thought, you know, maybe just try a real simple one there and just see what kind of, what the response is like. I don't know. But anyhow, those are the things that are happening with Charlotte Humphreys. And so that's pretty.
Yes. I think that the generic one could still be fun, you know, for kids and to learn, you know, just to get out and to have fun out on the trail. And but I think that there's also opportunity for like developing material for the kiosk, or, you know, about biodiversity, or more, you know, with the plants map, you can do trees that are specifically there, obviously.
Right.
But I think, you know, in addition to these things that Christine is presenting, there's opportunities to, I don't know, create other materials too, I think.
Yeah. And like right now there's a kiosk. I mean, there's I wouldn't really call it a kiosk, but there is a pretty good sized sign with a roof over it. And then on the back side, there's nothing there now. And so Kim and I talked about the possibility of like creating something where a tack board, or we can put a map of the trails, and then we could design something that just talks about the biodiversity. I was looking at some of those maps, maybe Emily had sent them along, the aerial photographs, the historic ones. And that was kind of interesting to see that that parcel doesn't look like it's since 1937. It looks like it has remained wooded. So, and there's some running cedar in there, and you know, on the interior, there aren't a whole lot of invasives, so it's pretty nice little forest in there. So that was goal number 2, and then you know, we've got this ambassadors program, and Bruce, this is the possibility of working with Albemarle County Parks to create a sort of a volunteer. They already have like a COVID ambassador program right now, but the possibility of getting volunteers that can maybe tackle some of the invasives in our county parks, which is really sort of on hold right now, you know, with COVID and for a myriad of some other reasons with just using herbicides and whatnot. And then that 4th goal in there is educating staff about the importance of incorporating wildlife habitat protection, and really looking at creating some mow zones or reduced mowing in the county parks. And then, you know, it's not on here, but also looking at these wildlife corridors as well. So those are our goals. But one thing that I do want to bring up, that wasn't put on this list of goals, and this was way back when I'm going to go down here a little bit, but we had talked about, this is in our rolling work plan. So this was, you can see right here, the second one, educate and develop relationship with landowners of important sites. And this idea of possibly sending out postcards with a link to some of these conservation programs. And now that we've got this landowner tool, and the website does have some of those materials on it, including the BAP, that maybe, and I know Michael and we had talked about this way back when, about just creating a simple little postcard that could be sent to the people who have important sites along some of our those strategic areas. And we could perhaps start with along the Rivanna River. And I don't know what you guys think about that. I feel like, pulling that up and adding it to one of our goals. Do you guys have any thoughts about it?
When we contact them, would we want to let them know that there's an important site on or near their property?
I think so. There's a couple ways to do that. We could just start with the people with the important sites that are in those conservation areas, because we had identified 3 of them. So I'm not thinking all of the important sites, but maybe the ones that are in the conservation priority areas, and just to inform them, to say, perhaps give a little history and say if you did not know already, it's a little tricky, people are like, what, about my land and I don't know about it? But I think that we would have to be careful about the wording, but to say that you do have this important site and we want to invite you to participate and to help us create these, you have a special thing on your property. Can you help us to create this area where we're going to, I'm not using the right words, but dedicate ourselves to being good stewards. You'd have to do some wordsmithing to it, but just to let them know, and sort of as an invitation to check out the county website, the resources there, and the landowner tool. And it might be interesting, and if you would like to talk to somebody for more information.
That would be good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we're probably looking at a letter rather than a postcard. I don't think we can get everything we really want to say to kind of introduce what we're trying to do on a postcard. The context is really going to be important, how we approach that. So, but other than that, I think it's a really good idea. I did get a chance to go look at that website this morning, and I was pretty impressed.
The landowner tool.
Yeah, the landowner tool. That was very, very cool.
Yeah.
Christine, and well, everyone, we had also talked about maybe doing some kind of webinar about, conservation programs and cost share opportunities locally here in Albemarle, because the landowner tool is helpful, but maybe just to hear about it and, participate in and learning about it a different way. So just a thought that if you were to send out something to specific landowners, it might make sense to sort of time it around something like that, where you could invite them to look at the website, but also come to this, webinar program that we're going to do, or something like that, to learn more about it.
I agree with you 100%, because, even when I'm looking at the landowner tool, it was a little overwhelming. And I think that having somebody kind of walk you through and being able to answer questions would make a big difference. And I think that it would make our letters purposeful and timely if we could combine it with a webinar. Would that be something that the county would sponsor then? It would just be Albemarle County invites you to.
Yeah, I think that I could do it, and have it done through the county.
And maybe aim to do it in the spring,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, April, March, whenever you,
I know. Yeah, I think, right. Probably not immediately, but yeah, in the spring, I could see doing something like that. And that will give you time to think about the letter you want to do and, who you want to send it to. I was just looking at doing a postcard for the Stream Health Project and just kind of getting a sense of what that costs to print a postcard and plus the mailing. It's about $1 per postcard. So that might be something else to think about if, I don't know how many landowners this comes out to be. And, I can help you with the GIS too, to look at, which landowners you want to send something to and where, if it's just important sites or if it's throughout the, the conservation areas. So there might be a little bit of work that needs to be done before getting to that point of sending something out and having a webinar. But I like the idea of planning for it and thinking about it strategically over the next few months.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from everybody else? What do you think? Should we just go ahead and stick it on our list?
I just have an overall question with a number of these. Does the Natural Heritage Committee have any kind of a budget?
Kim, we had some money that David Hanna had said, oh, there's $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows?
That's a good question. I'm not aware of it, but let me find out.
Yeah. So then even if it's $1,000 and say the flyers for the kids in the park are 1,500 or more, and then we want to send letters to landowners and do various other things. Anytime we want to do something that's beyond any, say the $1,000 we have or might have, then we would need to go to the Board of Supervisors for budgetary approval and to get the money.
Well, the kids in the park is where there is some money that's set aside for Charlotte Humphreys. And so that's hopefully that money would actually come, the kids in the park, we get paid for the money that's been set aside by Albemarle County for that park.
Yeah, I was just going to say that park specifically has funding through Albemarle County Parks and Rec, Charlotte Humphreys Park. So that's why we have the opportunity to develop those education programs there right now.
All right. So any other thoughts about adding that?
I would agree. I think we should try to do it. I think the other issue about funding is that if we can get some sponsors for some of these activities, these are the kinds of things that people love to sponsor. I mean, it's great PR for folks. So if we can, I'm not the letters specifically, but more like the park and educational activities. Those are things where I think we can look to places to help us out, to help with some contributions for those things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, once we get the brochures in Charlotte Humphreys, maybe I could even see about getting the data for Mint Springs and see like how many, apparently they collect data, so they know how many people have actually gone to the website from Mint Springs. So it'd be interesting to see, and even if the brochures are still there anymore. So I don't know if anybody lives near Mint Springs. So I'll look into see if I get more information about that. But yeah, it would be cool to get them in more of the parks. And I think there is definitely a possibility of having some sponsorship with those. All right.
I think also, Christine, I think another option to think about long-term, because this is a big project, is that Christine and I were talking with someone from Parks about the idea of a Friends of the Parks kind of organization, which doesn't exist at this point. But if it did, something like that could fundraise where, you know, we can't necessarily in certain arenas. And so just something to think about if there's a continued interest in doing projects and work in county parks. That just might be something to think about.
And
Yeah.
I think, I think one possibility for that is that you could actually make it even more specific. You can make it, friends of a specific trail or friends of a specific, old grasslands area. Or, I mean, I think about all these, signs about adopt a highway that somebody has sponsored. And this would be a lot more fun for more people, I think, if you could post something up along some of these places where you can educate people in place, as well as giving some sponsors the opportunity for some good public relations. So, and supporters. I mean, again, looking for a combination of funding from volunteers who could go out and adopt a trail or things like that. I know there are lots of social and political organizations around who do a lot of these things, and I think we could certainly organize it around a really kind of a place-based activity.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of great opportunities there for sure. Nice. And so we're going to try to end the meeting at 5 o'clock, and Carolyn's, we've got to finish at 5:15. So the other thing that's on, well, actually, before we leave, the second part of this is, if anybody's interested in adding, like Leah did, to creating the tip of the month, please feel free, or let me know what your ideas are, or just do it and stick it in there. And then, Emily, did you get a chance to look at that landowner program tool and dive into it?
Okay, yeah,
I was looking at my own little.
So I did look at it some more, mostly just like generating one of the reports and kind of looking at it. And, I still think there's some good stuff there. I still have concerns, and I did start in our education folder a James Streamside program reports kind of document to sort of document what I was thinking, but I can go over it a little bit. Has everybody actually tried to look at one of the reports by now? It sounded like Michael and Leah, I know you guys had. So, I mean, I think it's cool. At first, it starts with that property overview, right? So it says, here's your property, here's how much of it is trees and shrubs, or bare earth, or water, or impervious, that's cool. It tells you about your watershed a little bit, also valuable to just kind of set the tone for people. And then it has all these different categories that you could choose, right? To say, I want information about. And so like the first one on my report was streamside practices, riparian forest buffers. And, it gives a nice little paragraph about what that means, what's a riparian forest buffer, and why, a little bit about why they are good, right? Slowing down the water, improving quality of the water, canopy cover, this kind of thing. So that's great. And then it ends with sort of your property may be suitable for forest buffers or other vegetation management practices. And then says, for more information, visit and then it provides a link, like Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation website. And when I'm reading that, I'm anticipating, great, you're going to tell me like where I can get help on like actually doing this. Like maybe I'm reading it and saying, you're right. My stream does not have this kind of buffer, and this would be great. But all you get when you go to that link for the is something that is not the Department of Conservation and Recreation website. It's just an educational page about riparian buffers. Like, so it's a more in-depth thing than the paragraph or so that I just read about riparian buffers. So it doesn't actually provide me this is, if I'm interested in pursuing this idea, what I can do. And the same is true basically of all of them. I mean, I've gone through a lot of the links, and I don't know if anybody has done that, but like a lot of them are like these really in-depth, like, 12-page, 15-page kind of documents with, lots of references, 20-page document on stream side livestock exclusion for the agricultural infrastructure. But nowhere on my report did it actually tell me where I might actually find out how I could get some cost share benefits for if I wanted to exclude my livestock, right? This livestock exclusion document is really good, I think. Like if you take the time to read it, I started reading it, and it really lays out like, why do you want to limit the access to the streams? Here's reason 1, 2, 3, like very clearly stated, even if you don't read all of the paragraph, right? Here's reason 1, 2, 3. I could go through and look at that and say, oh, maybe that's relevant to me. But it's not until page 11 on this document, which I had to click through, that they asked the question, of, let's see, how do I, where would I get, what programs are there available to help pay for limiting livestock stream access? And then there's a list, but of course it doesn't have any links. It's just in this PDF document. And so for me, if I were somebody who was like looking at this and saying, yes, I want to fence my cattle out of my streams, like I wouldn't get there. I'm only getting there because I'm pretty determined to figure it out, right? But I had to go click that link, go to a 20-page document, read all the way down to page 11. And then now I'm going to have to go and type in, I mean, there's one website that's listed, I guess, and then a bunch of other programs, but I'll have to go type those in. So I think it needs to be a little bit simpler. I would encourage, maybe I was thinking that you would sort of change this last part that says like your property may be suitable for this. And then say for more information, I would change that to learn more about riparian buffers, go to this site. To learn more about programs to help you, put in some riparian buffers, go to this site, like kind of tie it in with each thing that they're looking at. Right now, what they have is they have like those 5 or 6 different categories, right? There's wildlife habitat, stream bank stabilization, and buffer and land protection, which is sort of conservation oriented, in addition to the 2 I just talked about. And then down further past all those pages of information, there's a list of streamside programs that fit my interest and results based on this property. The ones listed are the VCAP.
So this is back. Is this back in the report, Emily?
Yeah, this is late in the report. And so they listing the VCAP, the Albemarle County Easement Authority, Partners for Fish and Wildlife. That one actually, that and the VCAP actually have programs that can do something, and open space easements. And then they have a list of conservation easement organizations. So I guess what I question there is, again, there's nothing about the livestock exclusion. There's nothing in there that says, here's how you go ahead with riparian buffers and other things you might want to do. Christine, you came up with that landowner resource list of some things, and you found at least some things like Department of Forestry list where it's actually a page devoted to like conservation sort of incentive programs and stuff like that. I feel like they could use a little bit more of that if they want people to do more than just learn about what the issues are, but want them to actually maybe take some more action, feeling like they're supported by maybe a cost share program. So that's my basic summary. I have, like I said, started this, and I have some more specifics, like some picky things about they have a link to the Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water Conservation District, but they don't actually link to the webpage. If you actually go to it, it's just puts you on the right page of a like immense like directory that just has a list of the people in that organization and their phone numbers. It doesn't actually take you to their website where you might actually get more information than just local contacts. you know, things like that. I have some picky things like that where I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity. Because when I look at that list of phone numbers, I'm like, wow, you just told me about the VCAP, and I go to this list and I have no idea which of these people is the right person to even contact. You know, so I have a few picky things like that. I like the basic structure. I like the structure of like breaking it down into these different categories that they want to talk about, that they think are important, and that there might be funding or stuff to learn about. I think that basic structure of the report, like the layout and the stuff like that looks good. It's, you know, it's easy to see, and these little, you know, each of those things takes about a half a page, you know, to do riparian forest buffers and agricultural infrastructure. So like the layout's not bad, but visually and stuff like that, they have pictures and, you know, but the content, I think, still needs a little bit of work. Did anybody else look at it and have like specific thoughts?
So Emily, I like your suggestions. So like there's not these nice little chunks right here, and maybe after this lovely picture, for more information, you can go to that website, but also have the links that actually the cost share programs.
Exactly.
Right
Exactly.
there.
Right there. That's what I'm thinking,
Right
rather than have them down at the bottom. Even if you have to repeat one, right? Even if VCAP is pertinent to more than one, fine. You know, then list it in more than one place, because you don't even know which ones people are going to say they're interested in the first place, right? Somebody might not choose all 5 of these for the report anyway, right? The streamside practices. They might think that only a couple of them are relevant to them. So,
yeah,
I don't know, but I thought that would be, useful. And I'm wondering, I mean, it's nice that they have all this stuff about conservation easements, and I think that that's great. I'm wondering if they actually, when they're doing the search on the property, that they don't already recognize which properties are under conservation easement. Like, that seemed a little funny to me. It's not, again, a big deal. Like, if I know the property's under conservation easement and I don't really need those additional information, it's fine. Anyway, anybody else have thoughts? But that was my primary thing, was just getting those cost share programs more visible, easier to find, and really make it clear that these links that they currently have really are just educational links. That, I mean, I've gone to every single one of them, and like I said, you know, page 11 of that one, I did find some actual information on a cost share program if I go start typing in other things, but not easy to find. So.
And is it on Christine, can you scroll down to that last page?
yeah.
Is that meant to, I thought that was meant to be where the streamside programs, but these are not necessarily links to the right programs, is what you're saying.
Well, so that's interesting. So this is your property, Christine?
It is.
Is this so I'm right, streamside
Yeah, so
program.
this-
So that's the other thing. I need to go look at other you know, properties and stuff, because like Christine's list is, I only had 4 things listed on the property I looked at. So like Christine's list is clearly got many more things listed on it. And so that's something to, you know, I never saw anything about, well, I mean, maybe it's where your property is, but like environmental quality incentive programs and stuff like that didn't appear on the list for the property that I looked at. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious
Yeah.
about that last page, because I remember we had talked about this before, but I agree with you that they should be more prominent and throughout and taking you to the correct place.
Right. Like, I mean, if you go and you look at, like, if you go under the VCAP program here and you click, Christine, on that first thing that says Thomas Jefferson, like if you click on that, go ahead, like this will demonstrate like sort of one of the nitpickier things that I meant. And it's just like, it's a working directory PDF, like, and then when it comes up, you'll just see it's a bunch of list of people's and phone numbers and stuff. I don't know why it's taking so long, but it's just, you know, if that's the first thing that comes up when under the program where I think, this might be something that's useful. It's not to me a helpful thing. Like, here we go, the membership directory, and it
Yeah,
takes
that
you.
is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, that's too bad too, because they have such a beautiful website.
Well,
with
that's
all
what
the
I'm saying. Like,
programs
why
listed.
not link to the website? Most people are intelligent enough. If you send them to the website, there's a big bar that says contacts up near the top, that if they want to contact somebody, they can, or they can at least see all the programs that the Soil and Conservation District has. But this, to me, was sort of like, wow, it's a list of names, and I'm not even really sure who I was supposed to contact on that page, you know?
Sorry, I just,
So I think stuff like that is just, yeah, it was a lot harder to get to some of the actual programs. There's Lonnie.
So do you all have a plan? I can't remember. Was there a plan for how to provide this feedback? Because I'm happy to pass it along, or I don't know if there's a contact on there. But I definitely think you should let them know, because they will want to know, you know, what's working and what isn't, since this is a brand new tool.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, I think the idea behind it is great. I think that, you know, I'm really excited about thinking like, oh yeah, you could go to a page and find out some useful places. Trying to see sources, photographs, maybe on their main page. I don't see, I'll go back.
this was,
Stream side info, maybe. Learn more about the consortium.
so
I don't see it quick and easy, like give us feedback about our tool on the main website
Okay.
right now.
Well, I have the contact information. I'm forgetting her name right now, but and in the last riparian consortium meeting, they asked specifically for feedback. So so I'm happy to look. I'll search for that and
Okay. Yeah.
pass it along. If you guys put together all your comments in, you know, in a one document, I can pass it along.
Okay. Well, I did start that Google Doc. I can send out an email, or you can just go to the education folder. I just called it James Streamside Program Reports, and I probably have a few more things that I might add. And, you know, and it's just it's just basically the stuff that I've told you right now. I'm just trying to get my ideas down. It's not really in a like really pretty letter form yet.
that's great, Emily. And then to be perfectly honest, I haven't really like gone through all the links and studied it that carefully, but I can do that and add. And if anybody else on the committee wants to do that, I think that would be great, because it could be a great tool, and you know, we can send people this way once we feel like if those tweaks can be made and make it so it does seem more useful.
Yeah.
But it's nice that it's interactive, and it's so cool that it can tell you something about your property. And so it's definitely in the right direction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, all right, thank you. And then I don't know, Leah, if you want to talk a little bit about, you know, Leah's been doing so much great work pushing forward with the wildlife corridor crossing and getting out there in the field, taking pictures. If you want to say anything to the committee about.
I guess I could just say that.
Oh, you got it.
I think we're making good progress. I was very happy to know that at least during semi-flood stage, the North Fork and South Fork of the Hardware River, which were designated riverine corridors identified in the BAP for wildlife corridors, they are not just itsy bitsy little streams. They're real parts of a river. I mean, at semi-flood stage, whatever, the stream banks were like a good 15 feet apart. And the culvert in one, the bridge at the other was significant. Wildlife can clearly pass through those areas. There were areas on the side of the culvert and side of the bridge where wildlife could pass through. So I think the next step is perhaps for, I guess it was Kim and Christine, we're going to do site visits to go and look to get an idea about fencing. Is this going to be feasible to fence, or should we look at other locations? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then if I can share my screen, which I haven't tried before, I can show you all the database that Joe Kolosky just updated for us, showing where the bridges and culverts are. And I can show you something on there real quick. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see what happens. I am screen
And
sharing.
you guys, this is on 29 South.
Okay, woo. So
Ooh,
when you open the database up, this is what it looks like, and it's kind of centered around Richmond. So you just see the little hand, and well, no, actually, I'd move it this. I'd move it over and zoom in. Okay, so here's Charlottesville. I'm going to keep zooming in. Sorry, I've got this sitting on my lap. Oh, too far. Okay, so, all right, here's Charlottesville. Here's 29 South. So like in this segment here, there were 52 crashes with collisions with deer. Whoop. Sorry, I keep forgetting this laptop is so sensitive. Go back. There was that many crashes along this leg of deer or bear, and 99% of these are deer, by the way. And because this doesn't show a lot of roads, it was hard for me initially to figure out where things are, but I was able to determine that this part here, see where 29 comes down and then it does a little backwards L? That is basically Red Hill Road area. And so like here's Dudley Mountain area, which is part of the large forest blocks here. And this is actually Red Hill Road. And this, I think, is Plank Road.
Yes.
So these are the two areas. So, what? Okay, so we zoom in, then you can see Red Hill Road. So each blue marker is an actual collision. And when you click on it, you can see that this was a deer, and this happened to be in the fall of 2015. The thing to remember about the data, at first I was like, ooh, this is data compiled from, so like 6 hits here. That's not 6 hits in 1 year, that's 6 hits over 7 years. So I was like, oh, well, that's not that much, that's less than 1 a year. But then Bridget told us that for any number you see on this collision data, because it's only hits that were reported to the police, and most people are not going to report a hit unless they need it for their insurance, you got to multiply the number by 7, at least 7. So it's kind of easy number to just go, okay, this is 6 per year, but they're not all in the exact spot. So you click on it again and it divides and it starts spreading them out, and you click on it again and you go, okay, one was hit on the north road and one was hit on the south running road, and these are both deer. And you can go up and you can just keep clicking on them to see what things were and when they were. And it gets pretty quickly a little bit overwhelming to figure out what to do with this. So one thing that was helpful, was really helpful, Joe just recently put in bridges and culverts, and every one of these big circles is a bridge or culvert. And you can now click on those and it will tell you that this is a bridge and it was built in 1976. And then I don't know what these ratings are, but if you go to the virginiaroads.org website, which is, you can get to VDOT website that shows all the culverts and bridges, and there it will show them with a colored icon, and the color indicates whether it's, what kind of condition it's in. But anyway, so if there's a bridge here, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is right at Red Hill Road. So gosh, that's, interesting, because the original information came in about bear and deer strikes being north of Red Hill Road, where you can see why. And then when I actually drove down there the other day, I realized, oh, there's a lot of woods all in this whole area. And that's part of what shows up on the map, but also it really helps us to drive it and see that. It's not like along Interstate 64 where it isn't necessarily forested, maybe a lot of agricultural land. Anyway, so you can click on this and you can see that there's a bridge there, and that's the bridge that I looked at. But then I also went further down to Plank Road, which, oh, that was a north fork of the Hardware. This is the south fork of the Hardware, that which passes under here. And so I'm going to click on the circle and I get the culvert. That's the one that I looked at. So you see there was 4 hits very close to that culvert. So anyway, it's a question of what do you want to do with this data, but I think having that BAP direction was a good idea. Kim, I think, suggested we stick with the data we already had. We're focusing on what the BAP was directing us to. And after I saw the size of the North and the South Fork, I went, well, no wonder they were the BAP original team directed us to consider, well, to look at these as crossings. But to me, they already are crossings. So I'm not sure what we would do about the fencing. And then to not say much more, since the only bear hit in this whole area that I've been looking at that I saw was around, where'd it go? Arrowhead. This Arrowhead, I guess, road, or maybe it's a little subdivision. I believe one of these was the bear hit. Yeah, this was the bear. And what I didn't realize until I saw this data from Joe yesterday, where he overlaid all the collisions with the culverts and stuff, is there, look, there's a culvert right here by where that bear was. So I don't know anything about that culvert, like how big it is, or, you know, what size stream or whatever's there. But if a bear was hit right here next to this culvert, why wasn't it using this culvert to go through?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'm not sure where we want to head from here.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember from Bridget's presentation, the bears didn't want to use that culvert at first much. They liked the wide bridge that she had, and they would go under there. But I think she didn't have any bears going through the culvert until the fences were in place.
Right. And so, you know, so maybe since there's clear, looks to me like clear passage for wildlife on the North and South Hardware, do we want to look at other places like this culvert, or do we want to look at fencing along where the BAP has already indicated? And I think that maybe the answer is we want to do both. It's a quick trip out there for somebody to go and look at fencing options here. I mean, obviously you can't fence across Red Hill Road, and obviously you can't fence across Plank Road, but Scott Clark had indicated, well, if this was the river, you'd fence along the river and then, as I understand it, funnel it up to the road. But I'm like, if wildlife can already go under it, I just don't know. I don't know about the fencing part. I need to understand more.
Yeah. I think
it's 5
if
o'clock.
there are existing structures that are good there, I think that a big part of the idea with the fencing is to direct wildlife to go use those, because obviously they're getting hit all along the road where they're not using those crossing structures. So, but this is a bigger discussion, and unfortunately I'm getting a message from Carolyn about wrapping up because she needs to go. So I think we should, I think there's a lot of ways we can use this data, and certainly to support, you know, a project if once we figure out where it makes sense to do a project. But I think it's a bigger discussion that we might not have time for tonight.
Right.
Sorry.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So how do we want to have that discussion? Just the people that want to work on the wildlife corridor project, we would do a Zoom call?
Yeah,
that could work. I mean,
if it's more than 3, you have to
Right.
week ahead of time. And
Yeah,
you have to have
so
dates available.
I'm not clear how this is this how, I guess maybe I'm confused, but I'm not clear if it's related to this committee or not, this project. It seems like it's its own topic.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
It is its own topic, and I just thought we'd have a little update, but I think so because we have this crossover with the other committees as well. But I think for now, Kim and I can get out and do a site visit and take a look at some of these places. This is so powerful to have this data
Mhm.
and map, and then we can have a smaller meeting and then report out to the larger group.
Right. And I think that would make sense too, Leah. I would like to have a separate conversation with you. And I have, some things that I need to do with the mapping and pulling together this information that I just haven't had time to do yet.
Right.
So I think that probably just working on it, in smaller groups for now makes sense to me. And then, we can organize a bigger meeting if we need to.
Yeah, sounds good. So Leah, thanks for sharing it. I think it's so great, all the things that you've done with this, and it's exciting to have this forward movement with it. And before we just close our meeting, I don't know if Bruce is still there, but I want to thank him for joining us. And I want to make a plug. Come think about joining the Natural Heritage Committee. I'd love to talk with you, Bruce, if you're interested in doing that. And so as we close, we're going to continue with the landowner tool, getting some feedback to the document that Emily created, and also think about creating that letter and having a webinar down the future with that. So I don't know if we ended up with specific tasks for people to do, but those are the things that people can jump in on with that. And I'll try to give a follow-up notes for everybody. How's that sound? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Carolyn. And
Thank you.
Thanks
See you
for,
guys next month.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
all
Bye.
right. Take care, you guys.
Bye.
Good night.